Hannah, our clerk, acting clerk of the evening. Let's take roll.
Acting clerk, I like that.
She's acting all right.
Counselor Wusso,
Present.
Counselor Hershey,
Present.
Counselor Stepp,
Yes.
Counselor Willman,
Present.
Counselor Dem, Counselor Kaut,
Here.
and Mayor Godus.
Here. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, are there any agenda changes or conflicts of interest this evening?
I have one.
Counselor Stepp.
I would like to move that we move the grant awards recommendations off of the consent agenda because a couple of the council people have some conflicts. And make it the first item on our agenda. After the consent agenda. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. That will be let's put that the second item on the agenda after Ingrid.
Yes, and I would like to change the potential parking on Maple for the Sixth Street project to the first item on the agenda.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
I told some people to show up at 7:30. So the change it, even though I know that I think I'm getting a sense that it's gonna deny it,
Yeah,
they're gonna show up for nothing. So I don't know if you want to do that.
Yeah. yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll be pretty happy they showed
I
up for
think that,
nothing.
yeah,
I would be upset.
to come.
Oh, you
and
mean
park.
they came for nothing?
Yes,
Yeah.
But they're in favor.
No.
Oh, well, as long as they're happy, then.
yes.
So you
I'm
guys,
fine.
your preference is that they come and they hear us dismiss it, but they come at that time?
That they have a chance to comment.
But
That's not my preference.
I don't think we're even gonna open it to dialogue.
We're not going to.
I think there's not an appetite for it.
Can someone text them or email them or?
I just emailed Ashley.
Yeah.
First, but I don't want you to get the.
Perfect.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I oppose.
Okay, motion carries 4-2 with Counselor Willman and Stepp opposing. Okay. Now that we are into citizens appearing before council for items not on the agenda.
I have a list for you, Mr. Mayor,
Great.
and it's hard to read that person. I'm kidding.
Mr. Smith,
Would it be acceptable for Heather to go first?
absolutely,
Little preparation?
absolutely.
Good evening, I'm Heather McGregor. I live at 63 County Road 116 or Airport Road. Can you use your microphone?
It's behind the monitor.
There you go.
Start the clock yet. Okay, how does that,
Better.
that's good, good for everybody? Okay, great. Later on your agenda, you have some aesthetic decisions to make about the proposed noise wall along the South Bridge route. But I wanted to come here tonight to remind you that the purported necessity of building the noise wall along Airport Road is based on faulty data. The noise wall got my attention a year ago when that issue came up, and it's because if this wall is built, it will be the view that we have directly across Airport Road from our home. So when I dug into the supporting documents, I discovered a serious flaw in the traffic projections for the 4-mile corridor and Airport Road. Those flawed projections then became the basis for calculations of worst-case traffic noise for residences along Airport Road, which then led to the erroneous conclusion that a noise wall is needed for Cardiff Glen. The faulty data that justifies the noise wall is rooted in the South Bridge EA of 2013, and it was carried forward into the FONSI that was published in 2020. So here's the problem. The 2013 EA included in its high growth scenario for 4-mile traffic a massive expansion plan that had been proposed for Sunlight Mountain Resort in 2008. You might remember that. That resort expansion was widely opposed and it was formally denied by Garfield County. And in the 14 years since, Sunlight's owners have not revived the concept but the traffic numbers live on. So bear with me, here come the numbers. The 2020 Southbridge Fonzie document tallies traffic in the 4-mile corridor at the present time at a max of 4,200 vehicle trips per day. This could rise to 5,800 with full build out of the platted residential lots up in 4-mile. That's the reality we live with today. Yet the EA and the Fonzie both project traffic counts in the 4-mile corridor for the year 2040 at a high of 19,500 trips per day. So where's this huge increase coming from? The 2013 EA forecasted an additional 8,300 vehicle trips per day from the Sunlight expansion, plus another 4,000 vehicle trips per day by developing all the remaining land in the 4-mile corridor. So the EA and the Fonzie added those forecasts to the existing 4-mile traffic to reach an improbable high count of 19,500 trips per day. This inflated number was then used to forecast growth in traffic along Airport Road if the South Bridge were to be built. And that data, in turn, was used to calculate increases in noise from vehicle traffic passing by the residential neighborhoods along Airport Road. I'm almost done.
Okay.
If the city is true to its word that the South Bridge route will not become a highway bypass and the Sunlight expansion remains forgotten, then traffic along Airport Road will not approach anything like the numbers contained in these studies.
Thank you,
Simply
Heather.
put, justification for this noise wall is based on unsupportable data, and the wall likely won't be needed if the South Bridge is built. Thank you.
Thanks, Heather. Mr. Smith. I'm talking you 10 seconds.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take a deep breath and try to fit 3 topics in. So I hope you can understand me. As Heather noted and carefully documented, the traffic volume.
Steve, just your
Sorry,
name.
I'm Steve Smith,
Thank you.
63 Airport Road.
Thank you.
Be
Glad
close
to
to
be
the
here.
mic.
Thanks for the opportunity. I'll take those 10 seconds back now. As Heather noted and carefully documented, the traffic volumes and related noise levels modeled for the EA may never occur. Certainly, they will not be reached for many years. The EA itself projects that those top traffic volumes won't come for 20 years. It is therefore prudent not to build an intrusive disruptive wall as part of the Southbridge Airport Road construction. Better to wait and see if the noise mitigation really is needed and then respond if and when that comes about. Federal Highway Administration regulations and CDOT guidelines require noise mitigation to be included in project design. It's not clear that they necessarily require that specify when that component needs to be built. This provides an opportunity for the city and its residents to monitor future travel and noise patterns, potentially avoiding an unnecessary cost and neighborhood disruption. I'd like to switch identities and speak again in behalf of Glenwood Springs Bicycle Advocates to alert you that on Wednesday, June 22nd, is the return of Bike to Work Day after a 2-year. City staff and city funds and city volunteers have been very supportive in this, to making this happen with a breakfast station here, free hot breakfast for bicyclists here and down at 23rd in the River Trail. Thank you very much for that support. Please ride your bike that day. See you there. Meanwhile, city crews, speaking of the River Trail, city crews and contractors have begun work to repair an important retaining wall along the River Trail just south of 8th Street, planning a month-long closure of that key length of this essential popular trail. As important as that stability and safety repair work is, scheduling it on the most popular bicycling pedestrian path in town at the very peak of summer use is ill-timed, to say the least. Worse, the proposed bicycle pedestrian detour during that month of trail closure includes heavily damaged and unsafe Riverside Drive, or 12th Street, west of Pitkin. The steep street includes large interlaced expanses of missing pavement, numerous potholes, loose gravel, exposed reinforcing bars, worn buffers on the railroad tracks. Bicycling or even walking on this route is dangerous and inconvenient. Subjecting cyclists and walkers to that danger will at best discourage travel by those modes and put more cars on the street. At worst, somebody's going to get hurt. This repair project and detour should be postponed until late fall when bicycling pedestrian use reduces. At the very least, the project should be postponed until Riverside Drive is repaired and repaved between Pitkin and the River Trail. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Nice job.
Steve, is that Wednesday, the 22nd?
Wednesday, the 27th, next week.
And is there a limit if you get breakfast at the 27th Street location? Can you also get it down here? Okay. Just asking. Yeah, I know some people that have a high calorie content need, so. Anybody else tonight want to speak on items not appearing on the agenda? Yeah, but they're for specific items on the agenda.
Oh, I thought. Mr. Zelinski-
Nope, Mr. Starr, and Mr. Zelinski are speaking for items, I believe, on the regular agenda. No worries. Okay, seeing none, I will bring it back to council for a motion on the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Been moved by Council Wilman, seconded by Councillor Wusso. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
And just to be clear, that's a consent agenda with removal of item C, the grant award recommendation from Financial Advisory Board. All right, under our regular agenda. Yeah, that's the first thing on a regular agenda because it got pulled.
The Maple Street.
Oh, yeah, the Maple Street. Yes. Okay, Maple Street. That is item. We move that up from.
14.
Thank you. No. It's not
17.
Thanks. 17. So is there a motion? By Charlie?
Yes, I would move that we move to keep the 6th Street design as is without the closure of Maple Street.
I'll second that.
Been moved by Council Wilman, seconded by Councilor Wusso. Hannah, let's call.
Electronic.
Can we have any comment on
Yeah.
that?
Yes, of course.
Discussion of that?
Too late, I voted.
I'm just curious, we have not heard from staff on that, on where that design came from.
Sorry, can we take the vote off?
We haven't
Thanks.
heard from staff on that, kind of where that design originated from. You know, it's out there today. I don't know if any of you went to Maple Street. So the parking right now, the straight in parking that's on the two buildings on either side of the street is labeled private parking, towable. So were we actually going to put in public parking on that street? So I would just like to understand more details before we blanket deny it. I'd like to understand what the justification is, because there might be a compromise here that actually improves that area as part of the 6th Street upgrade.
I just was, I'm sorry, I was shaking my head only because I don't think anybody in the neighborhood or the businesses are supportive of the design. At all.
Well, they're not supportive of having that street closed because it was done without any public process except a meeting last night. There wasn't like input from the neighborhood. I think my understanding, again, I wasn't here last night, so I wasn't able to attend that, but my understanding is the biggest rejection of that idea is the closing of Maple Street as an input off of 6th. So, you know, if there's a way to improve the design and get public parking in that area, make it safer for the pedestrians as we, you know, adjust and work on that design, I'd like to learn and hear more about it than just an outright rejection. And we haven't heard from the DDA either. For,
Mr. Mayor.
They did actually, there was comments. in the
Okay.
packet.
oh,
Yeah,
from
go
the
ahead.
DDA.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Okay. I
The only
did-
comment I was going to make, and Deborah, if one of where it came from, we might, but just so you know, the motion was to deny the closure of Maple Street.
Mhm.
That doesn't preclude us doing the other design, Shelley. Just, I moved that we're not going to close it. And to that level, we stay the
So
same,
just to not close.
not to close it. That was the intent of my motion.
Okay. Can there be part of a motion to where it comes back to
So-
us and we have?
Yeah,
discussion
so
on
let
the
me see if
design?
we could amend it. Let me throw
Yes.
out this in front and see if you're comfortable with this. That is that we make a motion not to close Maple and ask the DDA to have a neighborhood meeting and collaborate and see if they can come back with a recommendation that both the DDA and the community would be comfortable with.
It works for everybody.
Yeah, because I don't think we're going to solve it up here this evening.
Yeah, and I don't
yeah.
want to do that. I just didn't want to outright reject it.
Yeah.
And when
So
there's,
my motion, and I appreciate that, is not gonna change. And I'll tell you, my reason for that is they need to get this design. I want this built next year. And anything that slows that down right now, that's why this came, it happened so fast. And we just need to reject that. That doesn't mean I don't think that we can't look at better parking or things like that you're talking about, Shelley, but right now I think it's all we need to do. And I don't know whether DD wants to look at that or not. Jillian's not here yet, so could we move this up? But I'm gonna leave my motion as is, we just don't close Maple Street. I'm not precluding anything else by that, so
yeah.
I'm not just, I don't want to slow the process, so I'm not gonna agree to that.
Yeah, well, I don't think that having the DDA look at alternatives, but absolutely not closing Maple precludes us from being able to move forward this evening. So I think that a motion that indicated just that might serve us well. So absolutely no closing of Maple.
Yeah.
And encourage the DDA to work with the community and see if there's a better way to use the space there.
Okay,
Okay?
Yeah.
You cool with that?
I'm cool with that.
Okay,
Can
great.
can I
So.
make a friendly amendment to that as well, and also include staff in that, staff
Great.
EDA in?
So I think Charlie and I are going to amend our motion to include the strong, hard no on closing Maple and encouragement from DDA and community members and staff to look at some alternatives.
For the parking.
Exactly, for just parking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And-
That
and-
worked, Terry?
Can I think, can I, well, what
Yes,
I'd
you
like to say
can.
is.
Yes,
that,
you can.
I think that the designer, Derek Walters with Boundaries was trying to be creative and add, to add parking to Sixth Street because we've had so many discussions about need for parking. And I heard roundly that the residents really don't want any closure of Maple. And I think the businesses agree with that perspective. So I guess I would just tell the council that I don't think that there's another alternative. I wouldn't task the DDA of with the idea of trying to find additional parking alternatives because I really feel like we're very constrained and this was a creative solution to try to augment parking and protect pedestrians. But I really don't feel like we should die on our swords here. It's not worth the public outcry that we heard. So I feel like, the council should go ahead and recommend that we not do this. And, at some point, in the future with Sixth Street, I heard we should construct a parking structure. And they're, as you guys know, they're very expensive and the land to do those kinds of things is limited. But, it was a part of the Sixth Street master plan to propose a parking structure, I believe at the old Toyota dealership. I have had some discussions with the DDA director about, perhaps proposing an extension of the current PIF, whatever it is that supports the DDA. With the idea that they look at possible locations for parking structures. And I think that that's a very good idea. I think that this minor change in the Sixth Street design, it would have supplied a little bit of additional parking, but, again, the neighbors were adamant that they really didn't want this to occur. So, it's just, there are some battles to fight. And I believe that this isn't one of them.
So
Any other comments?
I guess, encouraging the DDA, the community and the neighbor to look at parking is broad. So that takes care of kind of what you said, Terry. So that's my view of it. So.
Yeah, and I do think that at least, I think Jillian hasn't run this idea past her board yet, but it has been some discussion that we've had about, I think whenever people get a chance to talk about parking, paid parking is very contentious still, but the idea that the city should build parking structures, I think is something that everybody supports. So how we do that, I think is something that we should continue discussion on.
I guess I would continue to say, I'd like to see that discussion move forward. Maybe it can be done, but I think there are compromises here to get some, again, I didn't really get an answer on whether this is transitioning to public parking versus private towaway parking?
I honestly believe that it's all public parking. I'm not sure why it's signed as private parking. The right of way is essentially building line to building line there.
Oh, is it really? Okay, so yes, they do have it signed as private parking towaway right now. So, and I like some of the curb and gutter improvements. There's just a way to improve that area, I think, for pedestrians, but still keep the neighborhood access. That's what I'm looking for. So I think I'm agree with Charlie. I'd like to see us have those conversations.
And we can run this, again, past the DDA board. I do believe, before we had this public meeting that we had last night, they in general, they thought that they supported it, but I think that there were some feelings, I guess, that weren't expressed at that meeting about the proposal that, since it's had more airtime, some of the business owners that were at the DDA meeting have changed their mind. So I think we can bring it back to them and we can talk about it a little bit more, but I honestly feel like there's not a lot that we can do in this small area to increase the parking outside of these kind of creative ideas.
Okay.
So I don't mind talking about it again. I just feel like we're kind of limited in this particular space.
Mhm. The motion was to close Maple Street. And encourage people to keep talking.
Not close Maple Street.
Sorry.
You're killing me here.
Did you repeat that back?
Yeah,
Maple Street will not be closed.
Maple Street will keep open.
It will stay open. And we will continue as a community to dialogue about solutions to parking in that area.
Okay, so what's a yes vote?
I yes vote keeps Maple open.
Okay,
Yes, keep it open.
okay, thank you.
Are we ready for the voting?
Yeah,
Okay.
ready 10 minutes ago.
Mine's not much. I did get to vote twice, not enough. Nothing in that lengthy conversation changed my mind.
Motion passes 5-1 with counselors Willman, Wuso, Godus, and Stepp voting yes, and Kaup voting yes. Counselor Hershey voting no.
Thank you.
Thank you. I
Yes,
think so.
yes, you're keeping it open. A no is a yes. Or a yes is a no to close. Depending on how you look at it.
We're in the upside down here. Okay, I think we're at
FAB.
FAB, item C from the consent agenda. So we need one person at a time to step out where we'll discuss the individual grant first, and then we'll come back in and vote on everything except that individual grant, right?
That works.
Okay. So Charlie,
I have River Bridge,
what's that?
River Bridge Regional Centers.
Okay. You want to jump out a sec?
Sure.
Is there a motion to approve River Bridge?
I would make a motion to approve that.
I'll second.
I would make a motion to.
Nope, you have to push it harder.
I would make a motion to approve the funding for River Bridge. Thank you.
Well,
Cheryl.
all of the FAB, just
no.
River Bridge. Got it.
Just
Okay.
River Bridge.
Got it.
And
Thank
I'll
you, sir.
second that.
So
Can you, okay, so it's made by Counselor Hershey, seconded by Counselor Wuso. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Really, Colorado watershed.
Okay. Paula Stepp will be recusing herself from the Middle Watershed Council-ish.
Watershed Council, Watershed Council.
All right, is there a motion to approve grant funding, Financial Advisory Committee Board, funding for the Middle Colorado Watershed?
Motion to do a $7,500 Middle Colorado Watershed Program. Grant.
Can
I'll
you
second
redo
that.
that with your mic on?
Sure.
I will make a motion to do the $7,500 FAB grant for the Middle Colorado Watershed Program.
I'll second that.
Been moved by Counselor Wuso, seconded by Counselor Cowell. Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Tony. Yeah. I know, I just, the last name, I'm gonna just start.
She's stuffing herself with chicken.
I think a lot of that's my fault.
Ingrid,
I think that's an understatement.
I think that Ingrid made more fun. Second. Motion.
All right, so now we have the bulk of the Financial Advisory Board recommendations. Is there a motion to approve the, just for everybody, the two items that were approved as the Middle Colorado River Watershed, thank you, and the River Bridge grant. So go ahead, Shelley.
I will make a motion to approve all of the remaining grants that were recommended by FAB.
I'll second that.
Been moved by Shelley, seconded by Paula. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, now we're on to item number 9, Interstate 70 Coalition update.
Yes, she'll be virtual.
It's Margaret Bose.
Hello,
Hello.
good evening. Thank you all for having me this evening. Should I pull up my own presentation or will it be shared there?
If you want to pull it up, that's okay. Just for we have people in the audience as well.
Yep.
You're on a big screen right now and it's
Okay.
projected to other members in the council.
Okay, very good. Okay, can you see my screen there? Can you see the screen? The
Yes.
presentation? Okay, very good. Well, thank you for having me. I'm Margaret Bose, Director of the I-70 Coalition. And just real quick, a little overview of the organization. We are a 501c6 nonprofit membership organization. And we were formed in 2004 at a time when CDOT and Federal Highways were undertaking the PEIS process for this corridor. And stakeholders, particularly local governments throughout the mountains, were feeling like their input was not being heard, and that prompted all of those local governments to form the I-70 Coalition. And we have a mission to enhance mobility and accessibility, and we do on the mountain corridor, and we do that through joint public and private partnerships. Ultimately, we advocate for improvements and try to maintain attention at the state and federal level. We work closely with the state legislature, with the federal delegation, and make sure that they know about the great needs we have throughout the mountain corridor. And as I think you know, any CDOT, any project that happens on I-70 between C-470 and Glenwood must go through the context sensitive solutions process, which is a process that includes strong stakeholder input. So the I-70 Coalition has a seat at the table for all of those projects and maintain direct involvement in all the studies and plans that CDOT is working on. So here's a list of our members. We're 27 local governments and businesses. The businesses are primarily the large employers throughout the corridor. And Glenwood Springs and Garfield County have been members in the past of the I-70 Coalition. I think it was around 2011, 2012 that Garfield County and Glenwood did let their membership lapse. And I'll also mention, in addition to these formal members, we have an associate membership category. So those are organizations like the Colorado Motor Carriers, Denver Regional Council of Governments, and then a lot of the large transportation, design, construction, and consulting firms. So I won't spend a lot of time on this slide. I think you're all aware that this corridor is not meeting our needs. We have congestion issues, it lacks resiliency, redundancy, and it is a highway that is largely unchanged since 1979. And I know Glenwood Canyon is the exception to that statement. Colorado is forecasted to continue to grow by 3 million people by 2050, most of those landing on the Front Range. And at the time of the PEIS, a traffic study did find that if no action was taken, that travel times would triple by 2035 from those year 2000. So that imagine having kind of a Sunday afternoon traffic on a Tuesday or Wednesday. We know that there's increasing interest in visiting Colorado and in outdoor recreation, and that is demonstrated through increased volumes through the Eisenhower Tunnel. Those increased 11% from 2020 to 2021. So CDOT and Federal Highways did issue the I-70 Record of Decision in 2011. So that's the long-range plan for the corridor. And that is based on a consensus recommendation from 27 local governments, environmental groups, private sector and nonprofit organizations that got together, came to consensus, and identified that the I-70 rod needs to be innovative and it needs to be multimodal. And the direction kind of falls into three components: specific highway improvements, high-speed transit, exploring the feasibility, and non-infrastructure improvements, which are things like maintenance, snow plowing, enforcement, travel information systems, et cetera. And the PEIS did determine that all three of these things are needed to meet the long-term needs of this important corridor. So the highway improvements, the progress has been pretty slow since 2011. We have not done a great job of funding transportation in the state, but recent legislation, Senate Bill 267, 260, some bills from last session, and then the federal infrastructure bill will definitely help with an infusion of dollars to get some of those projects moving. And CDOT has divided the state up into regional planning areas. And as you know, most of the mountain corridor falls into the Intermountain TPR. And that's where local governments get together and advocate for their local projects to get on CDOT's 10-year plan. And that is where funding is assigned to these projects to get them implemented. So there's lots of large and regionally significant projects that will never be funded through that regional planning program. The price tags are just too great. And so some of these major projects, Floyd Hill, 700 million. There's, I think, 1.5 million in deferred maintenance at the Eisenhower Tunnel. Vail Pass, the price tag is supposed to be even higher than Floyd Hill. And you are all well aware of the needs in Glenwood Canyon and discussion around alternate routes. So these all require advocacy and will require state and federal support. And so the I-70 Coalition is very engaged in, with the exception of the last one, these projects. High-speed transit, the ROD did direct CDOT to explore feasibility of an advanced guideway system. And AGS is really just a generic term for some kind of high-speed system. That would be from C-470 on the west side of Denver through Eagle Airport. And CDOT did complete the study in 2014, and it found that a high-speed system is technically feasible. It's not financially feasible at this time. I think the price tag back in 2014 was estimated at about 16 billion for such a system. And at that time, CDOT's budget for the entire state for maintenance and capacity projects was 1 billion. So pretty daunting price tag. The recent legislation created the Front Range Passenger Rail District. And we know that for a mountain system to be viable, it needs to connect with some kind of front range system. So the legislation that formed that rail district did give the I-70 Coalition a seat on the advisory board. So we'll be participating in those discussions and making sure that those folks realize that we need the front range system to be, if not interoperable, at least interconnected with a future mountain system. Non-infrastructure improvements, especially that's transportation demand management. And the I-70 Coalition does spend a lot of time and resources on our TDM program with the goal to reduce congestion, improve mobility. And our main focus areas are shifting travel demand, supporting and promoting carpooling, as well as transit. The front range visitor is our primary audience, but we also focus on corridor residents and out-of-state visitors as well. All of our TDM program is delivered through our website, goI70.com. So just a couple more slides here. This is a screenshot of our travel forecast page on that website. And this is by far the most popular page on the site. Every Thursday afternoon, we post a travel forecast that's specific to that coming weekend, considers weather, large events, construction, and historic traffic volumes. So it gives folks an idea of when traffic will be at its worst, and we encourage them to travel at off-peak times. We have a carpool and parking page, focuses and promotes the new apps we have here in Colorado, TreadShare and Caravan, and also highlights any parking carpool incentives that resorts and local governments have. And then mountain transit options, big focus for the I-70 Coalition. We are in the middle of a campaign. It launched for Valentine's Day. It's Break Up With Your Car. And that campaign aims to increase transit ridership through increased awareness of all the transit options. We're thrilled that those options are growing steadily. So we highlight CDOT's Snow Staying, Bus Staying, Outrider. We're really excited about the new Pegasus van service. And then also talk about the Winter Park Express and all the airport shuttles. Now we know that Front Range folks maybe are not aware of, okay, I get up to the mountains on one of these public transportation systems, but am I going to be stuck at my hotel or at the resort? So we talked a lot about the local and regional services that we have throughout the mountain corridor. And you will see here, we listed RAFTA and Ride Glenwood Springs as part of the campaign. And those are also listed on our Go I-70 website. So that is the high points. This is a big topic to cover. I was asked to keep it to 5 to 10 minutes. So I'll stop there and happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Could you go back to the rail district? Because we do have rail service here to Glenwood. I know it doesn't go along the I-70 corridor. What exactly what does that encompass?
So this was legislation that was passed, I think it was just last session, to form a Front Range passenger rail district. It would be a passenger rail line from Trinidad to Fort Collins, I believe,
Okay.
and maybe even up into Cheyenne. And they will be proposing to the local governments within that district. It will go to a vote if those to tax themselves to raise the funds to create a passenger rail system. And
Okay,
it's very much in the early stages.
thank you.
Yeah, you got first thing.
Hi, Margaret. Thank you for being here. Do you have the transit organizations as members of the coalition?
You know, CASTA we participate quite a bit with CASTA, for example, and Eco Transit, Summit Stage. Most of those transit agency participate on our TDM committee. They're all members of our TDM committee and we meet quarterly. So yes, that's a long way to say yes.
Okay, thank you. And what does it take to be a member? Just curious.
So Glenwood Springs, I did take a look back in 2012. The dues for Glenwood Springs were somewhere in the $1,800 a year range. And it's based on, it's a kind of a convoluted formula of population, assessed valuation, and taxable sales. And I think the dues would probably be in that same neighborhood. We haven't had a whole lot of dues increases over the years. And to join, it would be filling out a very simple application.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Anybody from the public like to comment? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back for further discussion or motion. Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, I think it's important that we become engaged in the coalition again, and I would encourage us to become members and one of our members on our council be our liaison to that group.
I would second that.
Okay, been
Is
moved.
that a motion?
Sure.
Been moved by Counselor Willman, seconded by Counselor Kopp. All those in, let's do the electronic thing.
Forget about me over here?
Well, I mean, it seems like it has broad-based support, but you never know. No, I kind of do.
No, you don't.
Motion passes 5-1 with Counselors Willman, Wuso, Godus, Step, and Count voting yes, and Counselor Hershey voting no.
Margaret, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. We're excited to be a part of it. It's been probably long overdue, and we'll probably have a conversation amongst ourselves who will be the representative.
Great. Well, great to have you guys back and really appreciate you guys having me this evening. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, next item is a Historic Preservation Commission appointments. Counselor Hershey.
Thank you. Okay. Before I make a motion, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about Melissa Jones, who is appointed. She was a history major at Colorado State University, and she got her master's in public history. She also serves on the Vail board, if you're familiar with that board. So for a young person who, I think she does title work and she has an office in Aspen, but to be engaged, in our community, I think is great. She's a really nice person. And I would make a motion to appoint her to our open seat. I just want to make sure I'm doing it right on the thing. Yeah, she's appointed to the regular seat on the historic preservation, and I would make that motion.
I'll second it.
With a term, I'm sorry, expiring April 2024.
Been moved by Tony, seconded by Paula. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Can Hannah have Emery contact her or something to tell her that I interviewed her and I told her we'd be voting, or Sarah, tell Emery to tell her. Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Thanks. Just as a point of order, if anybody's here or has come in, I saw a few people come in lately for the Maple Street conversation. We've already had it. We decided to keep Maple Street open. So thank you for showing up. I'm sorry that you showed up for no reason, but you win, so cool. And if anybody else that you know of shows up that you think is with that group, if you want to just grab them and let them know, hey, we already took action on that, that'd be great. Otherwise, I'll probably make this announcement a couple more times.
Thank you, John.
All right, Parks and Rec Commission appointment.
With that in mind, will Amanda Madden come on up? We're bringing her up tonight. You come on over here.
By the,
There you go.
yeah,
You can go. No, that's fine.
the microphone.
Okay.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, so I had an opportunity, and I'm the Parks and Rec liaison to council. And so I had an opportunity to sit down with Miss Amanda and visit with her about her interest in filling the youth seat for the Parks and Rec Commission. And I thank you so much for applying for it. Tell us why you wanted to do it.
Well, other than watching the Netflix sitcom Parks and Rec,
I'll make a motion right now. She
no.
just sealed the deal.
I really just, as a youth member of the community, I feel that I don't have any power in anything related to the city. And I've reached out to many people with like project ideas and just ways that I can have an impact. And then I came across this, and it seemed like a way that I could have, again, I could just have an impact, and I could help sort of be a bridge between the youth of our community and the people who have power.
That's perfect. Thank you so much again. And I, at that point, will make a motion. Oh, go
I had
ahead.
a question for you.
Oh, sorry.
Other than Leslie Knope, what character do I identify with the most? It's a serious question.
Ron?
Really?
Out of order.
I thought that would be April. Can I?
Does anybody else have
Yeah, yeah,
questions? for
yeah.
her? Let's quiz
You're in
her.
8th grade, right?
No.
No, I'm going to be a
Sophomore.
sophomore. in high
Come
Yeah.
on.
I'm sorry.
A sophomore in high
Sophomore
school.
She does mock trial too.
That was gonna be my question. I'm a former mock trial.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you
you bought my vote. No, I was.
judge one of our scrimmages.
Yeah, all right. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else
I
have
will
questions?
second that.
Okay,
I'll
I
second
don't
your
know if I,
motion.
did I ever get a motion out?
Oh, but I'm
I am
second.
gonna make a motion. Now, this is a 1-year position. So we're fortunate to have her for the next year, and I will make a motion to appoint Amanda Madden to the youth position.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed.
Thank you for being.
Thank you very much.
Yay.
Very much.
Thank your mom too.
All right. Next item is request for proposal for the 2022-07 Tennis Court Restoration Award. That Mr. Smith
Goes to Washington.
just comes to the lectern.
Oh, I like it.
Good evening, council. We did receive a qualified bid for tennis courts. We appropriated $425,000 in the 2022 budget for that project. We got a qualified bid in for $555,721. That's $131,721 over what we had expected for the project. We had a conversation with Renner who submitted that bid. Their prices continue to go up every month. They'll have to resubmit another bid if we hold too long before awarding this. We do receive about $114 or so in proceeds from Conservation Trust, which is funding that goes through the Colorado Lottery and is given for parks and recreation type projects. We are asking council to go ahead and approve this award to Renner with for the $555,721, and we will appropriate and ask approval for appropriation of next year's funding for that. We do have a schedule together for this. They'll be able to do the 3 courts that are in need of repairs starting at the end of July, beginning of August. That'll take about 2 weeks to do those courts, about a month to cure those. We'll be doing lines on those. We'll come back in the springtime to paint those courts and resurface the 4th court. Just want to share with you a little bit of the state of the courts and why this project is so necessary right now. Oh, sorry, I'll let me share this screen here.
Ryan, while you're looking, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of cracking and settling of the concrete between the courts and the rec center. Is that going to be addressed with this also?
This will address all the cracking around the courts. The only area that we're kind of worried about and watching right now between there is along that drain system. We're pretty sure all those drains have failed. We have water buildup on that south or northwest side of the community center. And so that's another project down the road.
Okay, but not part of this.
Not part of the
Okay.
scope, no.
But that's not going to affect.
Charlie. Sorry.
Sorry, thank you.
Okay.
That's not going to affect, if it's a construction we put in, it's not going to fail because that isn't
No.
fixed. Okay.
No, these courts will be done in post-tension concrete, which effectively allow them to float over unstable soils. So while we did some geotech surveying, and they will be doing some excavation and laying down a little more stable surfacing, this will allow the courts a much greater lifetime.
Can I ask a question?
The timing of this, Brian, is why end of July, August? It feels like that's summertime and people are still using the courts, or is
That
that
is-
not the case?
No, it's as soon as it's a combination of the contractor's availability and weather. So we need to do this late enough in the year where we're not having as much impact. But if we do it much later, like I said, it's going to be a 1.5-month project, and we're already not going to be able to surface the courts. We'll have to wait until next spring to do that. So we have to break up the project into 2 just because late as we're doing it in the year. And that's also as soon as the contractor could do it. So we can't do it any sooner. We really can't do it any later.
Okay,
Best we can do is divide it up.
okay.
When is the tennis season? Oh, I'm sorry, the high school tennis season. Is it the spring or fall?
It's the springtime.
Spring, okay.
They're going right. They still going? Yeah, they're still going. Yeah. So this is just show, so here's our tennis courts, if you can see that. We have significant cracking. It's to the point now, I don't know if I have a good picture of it, but I'll show you.
These are all good pictures.
All the so the court 3 right here, this is court 3. So this one doesn't show it, but right now it's being held up by straps, ratchet straps, and we have caution tape there. We had to sand fill and put a Band-Aid on some of the court surfaces where the play area had cracking along there, just to make sure it was playable. It's a well-used court. We do quite a bit of revenue through there, both with our programs as well as reservations of the court for the community center. Any other questions?
Charlie?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I tried to read back and forth, but it felt like the contract said the striping would not happen until next year, but there was something in your report that said we'd do some temporary striping this.
So we'll do
Okay.
some temporary striping in October.
Okay.
Courts have cured some. We won't be able to do the color surfacing, the paint on the courts and the permanent striping until next spring.
So they will be usable through the winter.
They will
Okay.
be usable, but they won't be totally finished.
Okay, thanks.
Charlie?
It may be a question for Yvette, if Brian, if you can't do it. Conservation Trust Fund, I'm familiar with most of the funds and I was just trying to look it up in the budget. I couldn't find it. Does this get replenished every year or is this, okay?
Yeah, we get in about $100,000 to $115,000 each year.
Okay,
And like I mentioned, those proceeds come through the lottery, Colorado Lottery, and they take a portion of that and distribute that for outdoor parks and recreation projects.
okay, all right, thanks.
Go ahead.
I don't know if I heard you say, but now, once this is redone, what's the life expectancy of the post-tension concrete tennis court?
For post-tension concrete, that goes to, I have it here. It'll be the effective life of the community center.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
They-
Good
a long
answer.
time for
Good answer. Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear.
Then
That's awesome.
these courts that we're redoing were originally done in asphalt.
Mhm.
At a real good bargain with Greg Rippey, and
Okay.
we appreciate his work, and they've
Mhm.
outlived their life by several years.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Brian. We'll turn it over to the public for public comment. John, do you have anything? You said you did.
John Zelinski.
Hello, council. I'm John Zelinski. I live in Glenwood at 907 Meadow Run. I think you all know that I am the coach for the high school. And we use those courts quite a bit. I was also helping with some lessons. And those courts get used a lot, and they need a lot of help. And we also have Amanda, who played tennis and is now on the board. So you can see what tennis does for your community. And so I just want to, advocate for, getting those repaired. They're used a lot in our community, and it's a lifetime sport. It covers all ages, and they just need a lot of help right now. So I just want to help the cause. That's all.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm Sue Geist, and I've been teaching tennis here in Glenwood since about 1999. Started over at Sayre, and as soon as they opened the community center courts, I shifted over there. There is no good time to do this project. We are desperate right now. Just so you know, Court 4 is a post-tension concrete court. It's in wonderful shape with the exception of the top layer. And that's something that pretty much any court anywhere eventually will need to be resurfaced at the top. I remember years ago when the courts over at Sayre were needing a fix, and the previous rec director, Tom Barnes, came to me and asked me about the grass surface. And I was totally in favor of that. And I wrote a letter to city council at the time supporting that decision. However, at the time, what was never made known to me was that we were getting an inferior product. I know the company that installed those courts basically said that it was the least expensive product. I've played on those surfaces many places around the country. It's a good type of surface, but what we have over there is more conducive to soccer players rather than better tennis players. There are certain user groups, especially the seniors, that still like that surface. But I just don't want to see us get stuck with another inferior product here. Those courts are used, as John said, almost year round. I think this year, January was about the only month that I didn't get out there playing. So, you know, we have probably a good 100 kids that are in the junior program, probably 150 people, adults in the adult programs. So I think it's a worthwhile investment, and whenever we could get it done, we should get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I'll bring it back for a motion or further discussion.
I don't- Oh, we're gonna make a motion. Ingrid?
Yeah, I was gonna make a motion.
And then I just had a quick comment.
Well, okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the new courts.
And I'll
the
second
funding
that.
For it, yeah.
And I just agree with the staff report, and Brian, thank you. But you know, that it's such a popular community amenity, is that the right word? I don't think you drive by there, Mr. Mayor, anytime, particularly in the summer, but anytime when it's not in use. It's just something we have to do and fix.
Yeah. And Brian, I had when I was recreation director in Aston, we had clay courts. Have we ever thought as a community about doing real grass or clay courts?
Like French Open or Wimbledon?
Yeah. Yeah, they have 2 clay courts at the golf course.
In
and
Aspen.
they're super popular.
They can be a popular option. We have not looked into that simply because the climate isn't usually conducive for clay courts here, but they're not necessarily cheaper. If you're wondering if that's a
No, I wasn't going for cheap. I just say they're popular. Anyway, it's called the question, Hannah. Thanks. Brian. No. You lost me at more expensive. But I'm just kidding. Thank you very much for your comments, Sue.
Yeah, I work at Maroon Club, which is all clay courts. And there is a system that can be used in Colorado by the court system. That's what they have at the city rec, they have courts. And much more expensive to put in, maintenance wise, they're really not that much more expensive.
Motion passes 6-0.
Unanimous.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, John. Thank you, Sue.
Thanks, Sue.
All right, item number 13. Mr. Starr.
4. No, it's not 4. He's saying 10. Love.
I'd like to observe, you're all having way too much fun.
Oh, just come back next week.
Come back in a different night.
Hello, thank you, Mr. Mayor and council persons. My name is John Starr. I am a director of the Aspen International Mountain Foundation, AIMF. I'm here for 2 reasons. One, to let you know about an upcoming very big important event being held in September on the Aspen Institute campus, the 6th global meeting of the Mountain Partnership. The Mountain Partnership is a UN affiliated organization based in Rome with over 60 countries members and over 400 nonprofits and organizations and municipalities and government entities around the world. I've left a few business cards here, not for my addresses, but on the back, it has a QR code, which will take you to the website describing the meeting September 26th through 29th. We plan and expect over 300 delegates from all over the world will be coming to the Roaring Fork Valley, and they will be having meetings to determine their 4-year plan going forward, how to deal with mountain sustainability issues across the world. AIMF is an organization, we've been a 501c3 organization, been around for about 20 years. I'm a 30-year resident of the Valley, but a relatively recent addition to the board. AIMF is co-hosting with the state of Colorado, the city of Aspen, and the Aspen Institute this program. I had the opportunity to meet with Mayor Goodis and Deborah, the city manager, to discuss a couple of things. One, the opportunity, I believe, for Glenwood Springs to join the Mountain Partnership, become a member of the Mountain Partnership. There is no cost involved in this, and as the AIMF is on the Secretariat Board, we'd be delighted to assist in any way we can to take the opportunity to bring Glenwood Springs onto. I believe we've passed on to Deborah the background information on how to become a member. My second reason for being here is more personal. In addition to the Mountain Partnership business meetings, we will be having a series of side events connected with the 3-day activities on the Aspen Institute campus. Among the side events, the one I am really excited about and why I'm here today is there will be a side event where the Valley institutions, municipalities, and private and organizations will have the opportunity to present to the Mountain Partnership members, but more importantly, from my perspective, to our own residents up and down the valley, the opportunity to talk about projects that have been done here in the valley focused on climate change and mountain sustainability. Our concept for the meeting is Mountains Matter, Ideas to Action. We want to highlight the things that are happening here in the Roaring Fork Valley, up and down the valley. The meeting will be headed up, we're still in the process of negotiation of how it will go forward, will be headed by CORE. The idea is to have a several hours meeting, a panel, which would include those entities in the valley who wish to participate and wish to highlight what they have been doing and will continue to do to deal with climate change and mountain sustainability. At the moment, we have the Pitkin County, the city of Aspen, town of Snowmass Village, and we will be discussing this week with Basalt and Carbondale, and now the opportunity to discuss with the city of Glenwood Springs to participate. What interests me personally is the idea of collaboration and working together in cooperation to make these things happen. Too often we have an entity doing this, an entity doing that. Here is the opportunity going forward, not just at this meeting, but going forward to bring our entire valley to focus on how we as a valley are making a difference. Talk globally, act locally. That's our concept. The program will also include a video montage of the things that are being done here in the valley. For example, Pitkin County is focused on the methane issues in Coal Basin. The city of Aspen is focused on some of their efforts to reduce the impact of growth and building in the valley. Now, I would not presume to discuss what town or city of Glenwood Springs might want to put together on that table, but I know from my conversations, significant activities are being done here and are planned going forward. I expect that this will have an ongoing benefit to us all, not just at this meeting. My desire is to have Glenwood Springs a seat at that table and the opportunity to participate in the video montage, which will play on YouTube, and also Grassroots is likely to include it as a regular basis in their programming. So I will conclude by saying I hope that I can convince the city to come on board and join us all to work in this collaborative effort. Now, most specifically, the concept of course we must put on our event. So the focus is on sponsorship. We have received money from the entities I've described. My hope is that the sponsorship for the city of Glenwood Springs at $10,000 would be something that is acceptable to the council and give us some direction as to how we could move forward in bringing you on board with our project. Enough said. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Go ahead, Charlie.
You know, I looked at your website in this program, and concept of sustainability, mountain sustainability is really, you know, I think it's important to Glenwood and everybody else because we're a tourist-based economy. So, but it looked to me like when I looked at the conference itself, it's really trying to figure the nice way to put it. It looks like a really close-knit group of people can come to this. The public, there's going to be a couple of events on the side. Do I read that correctly?
Yes and no. The Mountain Partnership itself will have business meetings each of the mornings of the 3 days. In the afternoon is when we plan our breakouts. The intention is to have at least 4 side events, one of which would be the one I described. The concept of the side event that would include the municipalities here is to have the delegates from around the world come in and see what actually can be done if you can focus on cooperation and collaboration in your own locality. We're getting a fair degree of excitement from Rome about the side events we're talking about. And then specifically to your question, we intend to have the public attend these side events in addition to the delegates.
It looked like a Tuesday afternoon. I saw something. That's what I remember. So my other question is if we didn't sponsor for $10,000, could we still participate in this municipal thing that you're talking about?
Well, the issue we're having is we are working with CORE and getting a fair amount of positive response from our municipalities. Whether there is the room to include more than, if you will, the ones 4 or 5 that are likely to be on the panel will remain to be seen.
I don't know if you answered my question. If we didn't spend the 10,000, would we not be able to be included in this group?
I hate to say play to pay, pay to play.
Well, it's a fair question on my part. I just need to know the answer.
Well, for example, I will full disclosure. Pittman County has given $25,000. The city of Aspen is giving $25,000. The town of Snowmass Village is expected to give $10,000. We will be asking the same of Basalt and Carbondale.
So maybe it's fair to say that those have contributed would get first priority.
Yes.
Okay,
I have a question.
go ahead, Paul.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm still trying to discern, is there a collaborative effort that's going to be a result of this, that there's an actual project you will be working on valley-wide, or is it just, here's what we've done?
No, what your question is very important. Our focus, and mine in particular, is on utilizing this opportunity to pull our valley together and decide how we can best move forward. The Aspen Institute, which we're putting on a half-day forum at the end of the 3-day session, we are talking to them about the possibility of next year annually revisiting the commitments. Commitments is too strong a word. The collaborative efforts that we want to take forward. So the direct answer is yes, we plan to make something happen going forward. CORE itself is working on what they call CORE 2.0, which is to be much more involved on a regional basis, aiding all of the municipalities. The expectation is that we will see not just a one-off in this arena, but a follow-on, hopefully 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the road to see where we go.
You mean just another conference or an actual project that we are going to do for sustainability?
We'll be working with the Aspen Institute to determine the best way forward on project focus. For example, about 3-4 weeks ago, I went to Miami Beach. The Aspen Institute put on a climate conference, 3 days, together with the city of Miami Beach. I went down there mostly to take a look at how our professional event planner, very, very good, runs one of those affairs. But I ended up going to a number of the sessions. I came away much more positive about what is being done to deal with climate problems around the world. And that's the sort of thing I want us to do within the Valley. Have this way forward and tell our story so that others can recognize it and jump on board. Because as we know, it's not just about us, it's about everybody.
My questions. So a lot of times when you you sponsor an event, you get some tickets. I think I'm having a hard time seeing the segue here. I saw your spreadsheet that had the checks. I see we could have a booth at the $10,000 level. I think where my concern is granted, we do get a lot of digital time and maybe visuals and images. My concern is what type of involvement do we actually get on the day or the days of this? Like of the 7 of us, how do we interact with the panels? It looks like you have a great selection of people with a large, wealth of knowledge. What's our interaction?
Well, there's two sides to that.
Okay.
People, those organizations who have become a member of the Mountain Partnership have access to the entire 3 days as part of their membership. More importantly,
I'm going to interrupt you really quickly and say, when they have involvement, would it be like the 7 of us? Could we send our employees? Like,
yes,
okay,
yes,
okay.
yes. Is
there a cost to that if we're a member?
No, there will be no cost. There's no cost to become a member.
Okay.
But in addition, there will be no cost at the event itself. Obviously, you all, I'm sure, visited the Aspen Institute campus. It's quite an opportunity. We haven't determined yet where we will be holding the side event we're talking about. Perhaps in Petke Auditorium, which seats up to 400. And we will very much be planning to promote, hate to use that word, locally to our own residents to come and see what's going on locally and internationally.
And that would be the side events that the public is able to go
That's
to.
correct.
Okay. Okay.
That's correct. And each of the side events, we will be focused on if we have the opportunity room-wise and size-wise to include our public.
And so there's like a maximum occupancy kind of thing?
Yes, but the Institute, their rooms go all the way from 20 to 400 to 600.
Okay.
So I think we have plenty of opportunity to tell our story to a broad audience.
Okay. Thank you for answering those questions.
Thank you for being here. I had a quick question again, kind of on lines with Councilor Stepp, is what exactly what is the goal to get out of this as an end product? And will you be looking to make more recommendations, bringing the group together? Will there be councils that are working on additional recommendations for mountain climates, or more calls to action to global leaders, or where does it go in
There's two
lines with
sides
that?
to my answer. First of all, we as an organization, AIMF, as I say, we are on the Secretariat. We represent North America, Canada, the US, and the Caribbean. We plan as an organization to create a 5-year, 4-year, 5-year plan going forward with benchmarks along the way about how North America can push toward the sort of climate change and sustainability efforts we're talking about. Again, more specifically on the side of it, which would include the city, my expectation is that working with CORE, we are going to be putting together a very specific way forward plans that we all, each of the entities that be involved, can see how they can take their part forward and how we can work collaboratively to make that happen.
Okay, thank you. And Deborah, can you confirm, is the city still a member of CORE?
I am not 100% sure, honestly. I mean, I don't remember pulling us out of CORE. So.
Okay, I was just curious if they typically they have a request and.
I don't want to focus only on core.
Right.
We are also opening communication with Clear, an organization that is much more involved with you people down Valley. My expectation is that I would want to work with Clear to see how best to tell the story of the city of Glenwood Springs at our side event. So it is not only core, it is not only anybody. We're trying to put together collaboration.
Okay, yes, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Anybody from the public have a comment? Okay, I'll bring it back for a motion or further discussion. Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a comment and I guess, as I said at the beginning, asked my question, I think it's a great organization. I think the purpose is really good. I can see us becoming members. I'm having some trouble with 10,000, not because it's a lot of money, but I mean, I'm having some trouble with it because everybody else that asks that kind of money goes through FAB and they bring in their budgets and they talk about the impact of Glenwood or whether it's going to bring people into Glenwood or not. We're talking about using that money for this. And so not probably going to support it for that purpose, but I would certainly support us joining the group, looking at what goes on over the next year and maybe collaborating some things that you're talking about over the next 3 or 4 years. I think this is a huge issue to our area in Glenwood Springs. I'm having trouble without going through the financial advisory board, having them look at this and having the same criteria everybody else has to allocate that kind of money. So just so you know where I'm coming from. So.
And I'd say I'll make a couple comments that, this is a one-time deal. This is an event that's happening. And when those applications were for FAB in February being taken out, this wasn't in front of the community. So I view this as somewhat of if mock trial goes to nationals, for example, it's an unexpected request.
Gonna happen. No, I agree. Jonathan, I don't disagree.
Yeah. No, I know. But it's also, I think, very, very similar to the dental Smiles program that we had.
Smiles at the high school.
Yeah, that Jim Sederberg and his wife did. That was so great. We allocated them, I think, 10 or 15,000 as well for that. And I get those happened, that happened in our community and those were our kids. But I think that, when we're talking about making systemic change, climate change on a larger level, going to 100% renewable is fantastic. Having the city purchase, smart cars that are electric is a great leadership and virtue signaling at the same time. But really, if we want to be a part of something that moves the needles, being part of large organizations like the I-70 Coalition, for example, like CAST, like, I wouldn't even say Core and Clear because they're both so regional, but being part of organizations like this and not, I guess, getting a free ride when we have, if we're going to go up there as a member, participate in an active way, 10,000 is a lot cheaper than if we want to participate the next time a mountain summit comes, but it's in Switzerland. So, for that reason, I think I would like to support being part of an organization that can actually make some large scale changes on a national and international level. I mean, this is the United Nations, not the model United Nations we're talking about being a part of. So I think Glenwood's ready to step up to this arena. Anybody else? Go ahead, Paul.
I admire what they're doing. I admire the goals of what you're trying to attain. I just kind of look at I look at things that I'm involved with as a city council person and where I'm liaison, and I'm thinking in particular the RUAPA organization, and we're having discussions on can we look at our towns and can they afford to actually sustain operationally RUAPA, and we go back and forth on, we're going from a potential of 3,000, 4,000 a year to maybe 10,000. And I keep going back to, I'm not sure if we have the capability to do that. I can bring that to council, which I haven't done it officially because we haven't finished that discussion. And so when I look at 10,000 for this, which is why I kept bringing my questions back, Sean, it's like, what is the project that we become a participant of? And I still kind of feel like at this point in time, we are supporting this conference, which is great. It is. It's a great outreach, and it will look good on our resume. But I feel like right now I feel more inclined to what Charlie is saying of Council Wilman is that I'd like to see where it goes and maybe we won't have the opportunity to participate next year, if it continues to go and is successful, but I just feel like there's other things that kind of are on our plate that we need to be thinking about that really do hit close to home.
Ingrid?
Okay, so for me, I completely hear everything that everyone else is saying and that, this is a decent financial commitment. The return on it feels a little ambiguous, and then I have a hard time understanding how it will benefit our community quite as much as, the dental truck that fixes cavities. However, they're asking us for 10, but if you all reference page 12 of your packet, there are other tiers that would still allow us to be included in this, but don't have quite the financial commitment of 10,000. So, and I don't really think we're even in a position, the $10,000 tier allows us to co-host a side event. I don't know the bandwidth that we have to co-host right now. So maybe I would probably lean towards Charlie's if that's the will of council or Councilor Wilman's perspective of like, wait and watch. But if there's enough interest to be included, I would do a lower tier to get us in, allow us to kind of watch, be involved, be not even a voice at the table, but just maybe a set of ears and just be part of this and be a collaboration of Mountain Towns.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think I could support that too, and especially with just the influence of the Aspen Institute. I really appreciate that, and I think it would be good for the city to be part of that. But I do want to look at our financial commitment and go in kind of with a lower contribution at this point. So I would make a motion that we join the organization, the am I gonna get the acronym right?
There's Matterhorn at 3K or Kilimanjaro at 5.
I was looking at the Kilimanjaro at
Okay.
5. And if we also go ahead and join the organization. Yes,
Yeah.
AMM.
right.
Is there a second?
The mountain partnership itself we are.
The Mountain Partnership for, yeah.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. Mhm.
It's been moved by Shelley, seconded by Ingrid. Any further conversation?
I have a side note question. And this is for staff and this is not to burden you further, but sometimes it gets a little muddy to know what organizations we belong to. If we could get an active list going so that we could say, yeah, we are part of this and core and just especially for onboarding. Because here I am and I don't know what we're involved in.
Which is fair because I never remember either.
Okay. Yes, thank you.
So I have a comment.
I don't want to belong.
Yes, on the motion.
Yes. So the difference between the Kilimanjaro and the Matterhorn is because the visibility on the event registration page, is this just because you want to give 5,000 or, give that extra amount, or is this?
I
Is
think
there a
for
reason for
me to
that?
give that extra amount.
I think, my support of the motion for 5,000 versus 3,000 is that I would suspect Carbondale will give 10,000 and other communities are giving significantly more. I don't want to be the cheap guy at the dining table that doesn't leave a tip on the tax.
Mr. Mayor, might I pitch in a moment? The event, the side event is the one I'm excited about, and I am hopeful that you will become excited about. That is where the direction forward for our valley and the involvement of your community and all the others up and down the valley will be collectively put together. The follow-on from 4 2.0 is exactly the sort of thing you're talking about. Not, let's see what happens next year. Let's see what we can do now going forward. So I would like to make a pitch for the 10,000 figure if I could.
Mr. Mayor, can we call?
And the opportunity.
No, I'm sorry. I'd like to be a Mr.
Enough
We
said,
have a motion
enough
on the
said. I
table.
think you.
I
you
know,
got
but-
my- You got my feeling.
Yeah.
I want you to have a seat at the table now, not take a look, see what happens next year. That's my hope.
Thank you. And I have to say that we can tell how strongly you feel and how much you're advocating so much for this organization that I think that there's probably enough enthusiasm to at least join and see kind of where you're at and why you're so jazzed about this program. So let's call that question and
Can I-
see.
Can
Yeah.
I make one more comment, just
Mhm.
along with that, at the not necessarily supporting the side event at this time, and I think part of that is because we're working on a climate action plan that we're planning on starting an update on later on this year, towards the end of the year. We do have kind of a bandwidth issue right now with trying to host another event and take part in that, and I'd rather look at something like that after we've done the update on our climate action plan, which is over 10 years old now. And so that's part of my reasoning in that. Thank you.
Let's call the question.
Motion passes 4-2 with Counselors Wuso, Godus, Step, and Kaup voting yes. Counselors Willman and Hershey voting no.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
I
John.
will be working with Deborah and Deputy to see how we can bring you on board to the Mountain Partnership and see you in September.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, next we have item number 15. Oh, I'm sorry, 14, South Bridge Noise Wall Color and Finish. Just for the folks in the audience, we already had a presentation today during a work session, so if it doesn't seem incredibly comprehensive, it's because we spoke about it for 45 minutes already.
Jonathan, just wanted to mention, I don't know if we, I think.
Maple Street.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Thank you. So if you're here from Maple Street conversation, anybody that might have come in, we've already taken action on that and we are keeping it open. So thanks for coming down. I'm sure whatever you had to say was going to be fantastic and would have totally swayed our opinion if we were leaning the other way. Okay, you're welcome. Go enjoy some music.
When you win, you don't have to keep talking when you're winning. Right, Carl? When you're an attorney and you're winning, shut up.
Honestly, as an attorney, you should never speak.
You.
Charlie and Jeanette, did you hear that?
I did hear it. And how much have I talked tonight? I didn't stretch out an item 20 minutes that we could have decided in two. I did hear it because you're the one talking to me. Like this item. Can we just vote on it, Mr. Mayor? Do we have to have the whole presentation again?
No, I don't think we have to have the whole presentation again. I think we had some questions that we
I don't have
left and
any
some undecided
questions.
viewpoints. So
You wanted to go over the costs, and I think Paula, I will have additional information about the wall, splitting the wall, but not this evening in a future presentation. I wasn't able to get a hold of the consultant to do any analysis on that. But Jonathan, you asked me to just analyze what would be the total cost of the walls, just bare walls, concrete. Total cost of the walls with a form liner, in this case, the board form liner. And then total cost of the walls with the rock facing. So total cost of the walls across the project, noise walls included, is 3.4 million. To add the form liner to it, it's roughly an increase of 185,000. So total cost 185,000. So total cost roughly in the order of 3.6 million. Finally, and to put rock on all of the walls, noise walls included, is an additional 2.4 million. So total cost on all walls, including noise walls, is roughly 5.8 million.
So Terry, all the walls that were in the presentation, everything east of 82, the retaining walls east of the Roaring Fork River, but west of 82, all of that is 3.5 million for just the walls. And then an extra 185,000 if we want to do form liner. Is that correct?
So Formliner, yes, an additional 185,000 and includes all walls that are essentially west of State Highway 82.
Thank you. Okay. So it doesn't include any of those routine. Okay, yeah,
Yeah, not
Okay.
the CDOT walls. I didn't price.
right,
price
because we don't
those.
have any say on that. Okay. Are there other questions?
There were comments earlier, Terry, about the study. Let me go back to my notes because I had to kind of scribble as the comments were made that the Southbridge EA in 2013 was based on some numbers that showed a higher growth because of a potential expansion of the Sunlight Mountain Resort. And that the 2020 Fonzie used those numbers, even though that resort was no longer in the talking world. Nobody was talking about it anymore. Can you kind of address that? Is that a possibility that those traffic numbers might potentially be different?
You know, I did ask our consultant about that. They did say that it was a conservative analysis, you know, both on all sides essentially. But the noise calculation itself is really based on the speed of the road and the difference in the current conditions to the proposed conditions. So they really didn't feel like the background, the addition of sunlight or not was going to make a difference in the overall calculation. That was their opinion.
They feel that the noise volume will be just as high even without the increase in potential traffic if sunlight had been.
Yeah, that the volume wasn't as big of an issue as the difference from the current condition to the proposed condition. And the speed of the road was a factor as well.
And you mean the speed of the traffic on the road, correct? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Charlie?
Along those same
Hey,
lines.
Charlie, can you tip
Oh,
that down?
sorry,
Thanks.
thank you. Along the same lines, Terry, if you have 100 cars going by at that speed versus 2,000 cars going by, you're gonna have a lot more noise with 2,000 cars. So it seems to me that those are interrelated, the number of cars.
So just real quick, Terry, before the agenda item is noise wall color and finish. If we want to have a conversation about the need for a wall, let's put it on a future agenda.
No, I just wanted,
No, I understand, but like we're going off, this is not in the agenda item, talk about the need for a wall or not. And I don't know if Terry's prepared to answer that. If we're going to have the conversation or ask questions about it, we should notice it to the public and those neighbors.
it's good impact to my vote. That's why I'm asking.
The color of the wall is going to determine.
The speed, the traffic count, that's good impact on my vote.
Okay,
I wouldn't ask the question, but didn't.
okay.
You know, I guess I think that, you know, they said that the overall volume of cars with the addition of the ski resort and not really didn't affect the overall decision of the noise wall. And because the road, the speed of the cars mattered more than the volume of the cars. But I think if that is important to you, I guess, and we want to do a more in-depth discussion about it, I really would like to defer it to another meeting and then I can.
I'm not, I appreciate that. I just wanted to, my logic seemed to make sense.
No, I understand. I mean, I understand where you're going.
Sorry, Charlie. I thought we were going off there. Go ahead, Tony.
I feel like, Mr. Mayor, I'm like Alice in Wonderland here. So Charlie makes a good point, but we aren't discussing tonight, Mr. Mayor, correct? Whether we need a wall or not. We're just asking what the pretty color of the wall
That's
should
right.
be. A wall for a highway bridge that we don't have any funding,
Well, we have 25 million committed. Yes, we do have funding for it.
that we can't build yet.
We could build a bridge right now for 25
Really
million.
could?
Yes, we could. We
And we
couldn't
can
build
put
the
up
road.
this wall?
Okay, I don't think that's on the agenda.
Okay. Well, I'm just curious. We're talking about whether we need it or not. That's one of the.
Okay, are there any other
questions.
questions about the
I guess
color
I'm not,
or the finish
Well,
of the wall only?
or deck chairs on the Titanic.
Okay, is there anybody from the public who would like to speak about the color of the wall finish? Okay, I'll bring it back for a motion. I'll make a motion. I will make a motion because Mark is not here.
I was gonna say.
I do. I'm gonna fly my freak flag. I'll make a motion to approve, obviously the 3.4 million for the wall that the, NEPA requires. And the additional 185,000 for the form walls, not the additional 2.4 million for the, pretty rocks.
You're looking at the 3.6.
That's correct.
Yeah, I actually think it comes to 3.7, but I think that the reality is these are all just estimates. And I think that we can very much just approve the board form, meaning that we're looking for the most frugal solution to the sound wall, less some decorative board form to just make it not look like a concrete wall.
Okay.
Is that a second?
That's my second.
Okay.
Pardon me, but I thought the preference was not the board form, but the formed wall. but
I
with
do
the
think that
stone
the
look.
residents, that the benefited receptors from the noise study preferred the simulated stone.
Right,
As
okay,
opposed to the board.
okay.
form.
But it's still done with the concrete form, not a
Yes.
veneer.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
not a stone.
So Terry, do you need from us which one we want, which style?
I think that all I really need is that you want to go with a form liner.
Mhm.
And we can talk about it again.
Great.
Because the RAFTA does have, that board form going into the 27th Street, or at least in the current design. And you may want to reconsider. So maybe form liner is just fine. And then we can talk about board form versus simulated stone in another meeting. Maybe I'll bring back the landscaping concepts at some point. We can make a final decision on which type of form liner.
Bring out your little cart with all the stone samples.
Yeah, not that.
So is the motion revised
The motion has been
I think-
revised.
for,
The
No, I
motion-
think what I said was
you
accurate.
said board form, which
Uh,
is different.
I did. I said
Form liner.
that we spent
Yeah.
up to estimated
Mhm.
3.7 million to do
The lesser expensive of the two
Form
options. Yeah.
staff
exactly.
recommendations.
Form liner. Yeah.
Okay.
3.7.
Okay.
Okay. Hannah, let's call the question.
Motion passes 4-2 with Counselors Wilman, Wuso, Godus, and Step voting yes, and Counselors Kaup and Hershey voting no.
And then Jonathan, I would like, before we move on to the next agenda item, I would like to make a motion to put the discussion on a future agenda of whether or not this sound wall is necessary.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
I
Second that.
don't need a motion.
Okay.
I'll just agree to it. And there's two people that have done
Okay,
it, so.
great.
I have one question on your motion. Two parts. A, is it necessary?
Mhm.
B, timing.
Okay.
Can we delay building it by 15 to 20 years?
Do you want to be my second and I will amend it to include your stuff?
Yes.
Great.
I'm-
Okay. Hannah, was that clear? Do you want us to voice or do you want us to vote?
Yeah, let's include it. Can I include in that motion the staggered design that Paul had asked for?
Dude, you can include anything you want. No, just keep going.
Well. that's the case.
Basically, how about need and
We want to talk about the
design
wall.
of the
Yeah.
sound wall?
We want to talk.
You got a sense for
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Great.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-1. Counselor Hershey opposed. Thanks, Terry.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, request for easement across gun range in South Canyon. I think we're pretty close to wrapping things up. We only have two more agenda items after this.
Thank you. I was just asking.
Yeah. I was just
Okay.
trying to see how many we had.
Okay. Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. We have received a request from Malcolm Jolly for an easement access across the leased gun club property, generally located east of Road 134 and between there and Glen Ranch properties. Just to give you a quick little background about this, so we have a gate that closes off that area that includes the gun club, the law enforcement training range, and the East Coal Seam Fire area. That is in place because we have dangerous elements in that area, as well as to limit some of the residents who do grazing of their cattle around South Canyon from accessing that area and its risks there. We've had several issues in recent years with that property, specifically access issues with the gun club, which has traditionally controlled the keys to that gate. They've had several locations for checkout. That has been very loosely looked over, and we've had a number of incidents where non-club members were up there shooting illegal firearms, illegal rounds, creating both safety, vandalism, and fire risk issues and concerns. So we did have a stakeholder meeting with the police department, as well as with the gun club members, public works, and our park staff. I will admit that we did not have the adjacent property owners at that meeting. We were told that they would be able to access through the Red Mountain property, and so we could go that route and did not think of including them during those discussions. We have taken control, the city has taken control of access of that gate. We now check out those keys from the community center, and we have a system in place that has been working fairly well. I think the police department has been happy, and the law enforcement agencies that use that property have been happy with the tighter control of that. That's been going fairly smoothly. But we do have this adjacent property owner, Malcolm Jolly, whose property has, they have traditionally accessed their property through that. The gun club had issued a key to them for their caretaker, Mr. Paul Bagley, to go up there and utilize that. So Mr. Malcolm Jolly is here. I'd like to let him come up and present his request and say anything that he'd like to. I just want to leave council with, if council does decide that they would like to allow and agree to some sort of an easement through that property, that we take into consideration just control of who and how that's accessed, as well as making sure that we are not, we can continue to mitigate some of the issues like illegal hunting and different activities on city property that we've put that gate up for.
Brian, I have a question before we have Mr. Jolly
sir.
come up. We're talking about Red Mountain over here, right?
Yes.
Above the water plant. Is that the access? You got to go up that way?
Yes, there's an existing road, but however, the Jollies have never really used that access.
I'm sorry.
The Jollies have never really used that access. They've always gone through South Canyon.
I know. My question is I assume that South Canyon must be more convenient than the Red Mountain.
Right.
Is the Red Mountain, and I should know the area, but I don't know that area up there that well. Is it?
Hold on. We're not in your comment section yet. We're still asking questions of staff. When you give up for your presentation, we'll ask you questions as well, Mr. Jolly. Okay.
Is that a more difficult access to go over Red Mountain?
I don't know how difficult that is. So Matt Langhorst and Public Works were the ones that made us aware that that's an existing access that for those properties up there. But I haven't gone up and looked at the condition or seen what improvements need to be made.
Yeah, I just tried to find out if it's practical that way. Why I asked the question. So, okay, thanks.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, Mr. Jolly. Please come up to the front if you're able to. Alyssa, do we have a portable mic? We don't have, I don't know. Do we have a mic, Alyssa?
Just yell from back there.
Okay.
You can speak.
Yeah, you can speak from back there.
Well, what was your question?
Charlie had a question whether you could access it from Red Mountain.
No, you can't.
Why not?
Who owns the property between, I guess, the end of that road and your property? Well, Red Mountain Road. I mean, the road that goes up to the water plant and goes past that up to Red Mountain.
Well, on top, I think that Israel used to own it.
But I don't know who owns it now.
Yeah, you can sit down, sir, if you'd like.
Well, I'm on a walker, so.
But it brought us pliers.
You couldn't get a four-wheeler down that road from Red Mountain, I don't think.
Okay.
Now, you might get a four-wheeler down through there. But it's not a vehicle access.
Okay.
And hasn't been since we had the fire, remember the fire?
Right.
Right.
And those roads are in a hell of a mess, it's the best word for it. Now, we've always used the access across the city ground from the South Canyon side. Okay, and we've always got along with the gun club. The gun club has supplied us with keys, normally 2 keys. And everything has worked out fine. But now, apparently, somebody has decided they don't want us going through that. Now, I don't know who that is, whether it is the city council, or whether it's the parks department, or what it is. Or whether it's a gun club, but I find it hard to believe it's a gun club because we've had a good working relationship with them.
I have a question.
I was gonna say, we decided a couple months ago to tighten up access to the gun club after a serious and after several incidents of people using illegal ammunition and interactions with the police department. So I don't think we are not against this. What we are concerned about, if you guys want to do an easement, is the illegal hunting that is taking place on city land.
Well, am I right in saying the question about Red Mountain is there is a rightful easement currently in place to access the Jelly property, but it does access it from Red Mountain?
I believe that's correct, Mr. Mayor. I think what Mr. Jolly is referring to is that probably going all the way back to the fires in 2002, that access was never re-cleared to access the property. And I think out of a matter of both probably speed and convenience, the access through the gun club was used from that point on. I do think that, as Deborah pointed out, we have had an increasing number of incidents on the gun club range, particularly surrounding the police section of that. So we're trying to be more careful with who we allow through and how. And so certainly that is possible to still do, but it's going to change and probably be less convenient than it was before regarding when and how access is given. And that's just a function of, we have to tighten those things up.
Carl, is there a way that we can set something specifically up for Mr. Jolly and the property access and trying to retain what Brian in the Parks and Rec department needs? I
think we absolutely can, but I think what that's probably going to look like is checking out a set of keys every time you access, just like how the keys are run with the gun club now. And so from the standpoint of just convenience, it's going to change. It's not that, we're saying no at the staff level or no at the gun club level. It's just that the protocols are going to change. I think we're also going to need to probably look more carefully at insurance requirements and things like that. Times have just unfortunately changed, and the incident in Basalt not too many years ago at the gun club, there at that range. I mean, those are the kinds of things that we are obviously concerned about on a regular basis anymore, unfortunately.
Right. And Mr. Jolly, can Mr. Bagley work with us? Obviously, we're dealing with some stuff here at the city level, and I just want to know that if we have obviously it's going to be different than it has been in the past, and will you be able to work with us on that?
Well, I can't get in right now.
Right. I'm saying if we find a way to do access through what you've been doing in the last few years.
We've done that for you.
I understand that, but we have to change getting the keys. And will you be able to work with that?
I need 2 keys. I need one for myself. And Paul Bagley takes care of the property at my house because I live in Grand Junction most of the time because of my health.
Okay.
So I have to have someone up here to kind of bird dog things.
I guess what I'm asking is you to please work with our, if we pass this, that you work with our city staff to work around the issues that we're dealing with and accommodate what you need.
Will you check out these? Yeah. You go to the city and check them out when you need them?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean I have to go to the city every time I see a key?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't keep a key.
No.
Well, how does everybody else get in and out?
They have to do
They
that
have
as
to do the
well.
same
They have
thing.
to do that as well on the gun club.
Yeah, go ahead, Charlie.
Mr. Jolly, I have a question. I understand you don't like a change and we're trying to make something work for you. My question is, how often and for what purpose do you access that property? You or people on your behalf?
Periodically go up there. We go up there during hunting season, try to keep trespassers out from Red Mountain side. You know, they built some houses up with.
Right. So do you go up there maybe a half dozen, and I'm just asking, half dozen, a dozen times a year?
Well, I'd say at least probably a dozen times.
A dozen times, okay.
Yes.
And Carl, question for you, as I understand the legal access in Red Mountain and what somebody would need to do eventually is to go in and re-clear that.
Right.
That-
Yeah, absolutely. I think in this instance, I'd probably be more in the mode of crafting a license agreement to cross the property. And we could set up some kind of expectations regarding, when and how, and who to notify. There's a couple of ways I think that Brian and I could work on that, but it is going to be different.
Whose responsibility, Carl, is it to clear an access from Red Mountain if that's the egress that, it's the legal
I
egress?
mean, if you were to say no, obviously the Jollies would need to do that.
Okay.
And
And that's my question.
Yeah, no, and that's.
It's not
that's-
us.
It's not you. I mean, I will say that negotiating for an access license is not an unusual thing in the Western United States. That may be different than your legal access. I'm not advocating one way or the other, but it's not, there are no hard and fast rules on something like this.
Other questions?
I do.
We're talking to staff or council right now.
We'll give you a chance, Sylvia.
Is there any other questions?
I just had a quick question. We don't have a map of this, so I'm kind of operating.
We do.
blind.
I can show you one if you want to pull
I
up.
do not have one in the
Okay.
packet.
Yeah, it's a landlocked parcel
Is it, okay,
and I can,
and how many acres?
let me
is
do
it?
this. Let me just pass this down.
Okay, that
Okay.
would be helpful. I
There
mean,
you
it would be helpful
Okay.
because I know there's concern about hunting in Paradise Valley. I
Mhm.
don't know where that is in reference to this property.
Yeah, I mean, I
So-
think.
What are the main, are there concerns here?
Well, there are,
access?
and actually, I think that, and part of what Mr. Jolly referenced is their need to, they run into some of the same issues. There is obviously some issues with, hunters trespassing on lands that aren't theirs.
Right,
It's
right.
it's a fairly diverse, and as you've heard numerous times from folks in South Canyon, a lot of elk up there. So it's a popular place if you don't want to have to go very far. So I think that, those are the things that we really want to try to focus on, along with the safety aspects of crossing an active gun range. And ensuring that our, the investments we put into that are secure. So I guess my suggestion to council, if, maybe stepping out of line, is that we negotiate an access license that's personal, that doesn't run with the land. I'm not inclined to grant, to recommend to you that you grant any kind of a permanent easement.
Okay.
And that we work on a protocol for checking out those keys.
And that we
or-
have, there's some idea.
Who
People are going.
going in and, right, exactly. And we can work on those things. And I do think that, there was another comment from the audience.
Yeah, you need to, you need to come up to the microphone. Yes,
Introduce myself.
please do.
That's kind of scary. I am Rue Malcolm. I am a neighbor of Malcolm Jolly's in Canyon Creek, and I'm familiar with this property in South Canyon. And what I asked about the legal access. Has anybody pulled a title commitment? How do we know it's legal access from Red Mountain?
I haven't pulled a title commitment, but I can tell you from the gun club side that there is not one.
Okay,
So,
I called Patrick and I've ordered that title commitment.
Yeah, so like I said, I have no idea on access outside of the city-owned property. But to my knowledge, there is not a reported easement across the city property to the Jolly property. There is likely one potentially across city property on this side of Red Mountain to the Jolly property.
Which they've never used. So that's what gets confusing, right?
Well, I mean, I think the comment was had never used since the fire, which I took to be the 2002 fire when a lot of that timber went down. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know what the,
All right.
but,
what I-
but more to the point, I think I understand where you're going, Rue. You can't adversely possess against
That,
a
that's
government, so that,
unless
whether that.
they were using the access before the government became the
No, actually,
government.
No.
So, ma'am,
Not
ma'am,
with government.
Once
we
can
were,
count.
yes, ma'am,
Am I old enough for that?
Can't have.
you are. So might I suggest this,
True.
Rue, excuse me, Miss Balcom, the more government. I think this is, we're getting into some like very legal
And
technicalities.
that's why I asked Carl, but that's why I ordered.
And I think that's a great conversation for you and Carl to have maybe offline, because none of us are good lawyers up here.
Did that, but his history's a lot longer than probably the city, but then you're with that. Like you just pointed out.
We've been here since 1888.
So again,
So-
my suggestion to council would be, if you guys want to give me some direction, whatever that is.
Ingrid,
I'll
get
just
some
take care of
direction.
that.
And actually, my direction would be different than what I think you've proposed, and that, and I don't know if you all have this background, but the Jolly family has lived here for decades, probably longer than almost everyone in the rooms, except maybe my family. I think we may be competing. And with that in mind, I think we forget so often that we do belong in a small town, in a small community, and the relationships and the agreements that we historically make, they have significance. This to me is the equivalent of a handshake, right? And that was probably what you got at some point in time.
His dad did with Larry Valesky.
Yeah, and so for me, I want to honor that. And I want to give him an access agreement, or not an access agreement, but a true easement, so that it, for now and into perpetuity, this property has access through our land. I'm completely confident and comfortable that you will come up with the legal verbiage that makes sure that we're protected as a city. But I don't want to diminish the value of the property by not having it be accessible, and when he sells it, be accessible. And I truly appreciate that there still exists these types of properties in our area, that there are old time families who have old time properties, and they go to them a few times a year just to enjoy our community and the outskirts of our community. So that's a motion, just a really long and emotive one.
Would you be more specific?
So I would direct counsel, or our legal counsel to prepare an access easement for the Jollies to always be able to access this property. And
Second.
thanks, perfect.
Been motioned by Ingrid, seconded by Tony. Further discussion. Charlie.
Ingrid, and I agree with everything you said till you got the word easement. I think we give them a license, and when, as long as Mr. Jolly's alive, that owns the property, then I have no trouble with it. But I don't want to pass, because I think it could give a great value to a piece of property that we're giving without any compensation. And a private developer may come in and want to have that, and then in which case they need to use, if there's a legal access to Red Mountain, they need to use that, and they might have to spend the money to do it. I have no trouble letting Mr. Jolly, under certain terms and conditions, that have license that's personal to him, but not an easement. I can't support an easement.
I think that's oh, sorry. Do you want to respond to that?
Well, I think there's a motion on the table for an easement. So I think that we probably should vote on that before we move forward and continue the dialogue.
And I think he's making a comment on his lack of support of the motion.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And I guess I'd say that's an interesting point, Charlie. I think, that an easement does confer, a legal easement that doesn't exist before confers value that hasn't existed before. And so if Mr. Jolly or his descendants sell this property to somebody else, then that handshake agreement ends, because that handshake agreement is between the city and the Jolly family, not some future owner. So I think a license accomplishes that, but an actual easement goes far beyond that handshake agreement. So that's probably why I don't support that agreement.
And can I ask a question on that? If we were to do a license, if we were to do a license agreement, there would be the option to transfer that to a new owner in the
Well, they
future.
could come to you and do, a license is
Back to
personal to the individual. It doesn't run with the land.
Right.
And so that would mean that they could come and revisit that issue with you as a future council.
But it gives some control over it.
I understand.
Well, the license would end with the transfer of the property. And
Right.
so a new owner would need to come to you and request either an easement or a license at that point.
Okay, thank you.
And, sorry, one more question. And can the license, let's not say that he's selling the property, but somebody within his family is inheriting it. Would they also have to come back to us for
Yes.
that? Thank you.
Or whatever future council.
Right,
I'm confident with Mr. Jolly, it won't be this one.
right.
I hope not to as well.
All right, there's a motion in a second. Hannah, let's call the question.
Motion fails 1-5 with Counselors Willman, Godus, Step, Kaup, and Hershey voting no, and Counselors Wuso voting yes.
Go ahead, Charlie.
I'd move that we direct our legal counsel to work with Mr. Jolly and to create a license that's personal to him that allows reasonable restrictions on his right, but to allow him to have access to meet the concerns of the city staff.
And could you include his representatives?
Pardon?
Could you include his representatives?
Sure, that's fine.
I'll Go ahead. That's good.
Then the-
Sale of the property would require the new owner to come back and request a license from the city again.
Carl, as part of that licensing, one of the things at least I'd like to see is that it be restricted to non-commercial use only. Non-commercial use. And the reason I say that is because if we're giving egress across
So
our property.
yeah, I'll tell you what. So I don't have the authority to sign this. It has to come back to you guys for signature. And approval. So let me work on a draft.
Okay.
And then you can, I generally know where you guys are at on this particular issue, I think.
That's fine.
And we'll go from there.
Okay.
I just feel like, I'm gonna just say that I will absolutely not be supporting anything that says non-commercial because I feel like we're already limiting the property. And I feel like an individual private property owner has rights to use the property in any case, any way they want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's gonna come back.
That was just
Yeah.
one comment from one counselor. So, okay.
I just-
All right, all right.
So can you clarify the motion again?
So the motion is to direct counsel to work with our legal counsel, to work with Mr. Jolly, to allow Mr. Jolly and or his representatives a license to access this property through our property, which is personal to him, doesn't pass beyond.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Hannah, let's call the question.
Motion passes with a vote of 4-2. Counselors Willman, Step, Kaup, and Hershey voting yes. Counselors Wuso and Mayor Godus voting no.
Right. Thank you.
Mr. Jolly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rue. Thank you, Mr. Jolly.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Where's Mr. Smith?
Right there.
Oh, that's good.
Tony, it looks like we have, and I'm just asking you because you inquired about the break. No, it's fine. I guess I'll open to the entire council. We have, I think, 2 more items. Do we want to power through them or do we want to take a break? Take a 5-minute break. We'll be back at 8:23. No, I did. I did. We beat a lot of horses dead tonight. For, you know what, I opened one because I was about to have it and then I saw pie. Is the evil speed radar sign.
What?
Evil's speed radar sign.
What does that stand for, Terry?
I think it's just a company name. I don't know that it's, I don't think it's an acronym. So you guys may remember that we had discussion, I believe, at the last council meeting about these speed radar signs. And at that time, you asked that we go back to the Transportation Commission for their recommendation. So we did do that, and the Transportation Commission did vote to approve the purchase of 4 speed radar signs through this company. The approximate cost of those signs is somewhere between $12,800 and $15,800, depending on whether or not they give us a discount or not. And what I guess what we're asking you is to just confirm the Transportation Commission's recommendation.
Gotcha.
Terry or Deborah, somebody, I thought that the Transportation Commission had authority to spend the money within the budget. Do I misrecall that?
We would, I mean, I think maybe to advise you, like, we wouldn't let any board or commission just decide how to spend the money.
Sean?
Terry, I have a question. I understand that if they're going close to 25 or the speed limit, they get the thank you. Can you have multiple messages? Like when they're going faster, can it say,
Go to hell.
or no, not quite that, but slow down or?
Slowly up, down.
You know, I'm not 100% sure.
But Tony
Shelley.
Hershey fan tonight.
I don't know for sure. I imagine that that's true, that we can put up multiple messages
It
with
says
speeds.
customize,
Yeah.
but yeah, I
Yeah.
just wasn't sure. Okay.
Other questions?
Can I make a motion? Or do you want to take other comments?
Make a motion.
I actually have one other question. We're gonna buy 4, and I know we talked last time about having 2, so we have each of the lanes. Is that the intent? Or are you gonna split them out?
You know, without getting the more expensive model, we can't monitor both lanes. So what we'll do is put them at 2 different sites.
Okay.
Can I ask a little question?
Sure.
Lieutenant Kivinen?
Yeah.
Do you ever have concern? I'm just looking out here when we were helping Mr. Jolly leave, there's like a detour sign, there's signs that people put up, like the slow down in town signs. There's the elementary school, it's like, there's just too much and people just aren't paying attention. Or do you find a sign like this in your experience, many years, to be effective?
It will for a while. Just like the ones that, excuse me, on Midland, and then people get used to them and don't pay attention to them.
How long is a while?
But you can move them.
You can move.
Like
it.
our radar tree, like to move.
Yeah.
These are movable, right? Terry?
They are movable. They strap to a pole, so we can move them around.
So when people get used to them in one place. you can move them around.
Terry, it's been a couple years since those lights, those police not intimidations, excuse me, imitations. Yes, yeah, have either been on or worked.
You know, they are broken. I don't know why this weather, so issue is good fixing them, because I do believe they've been broken for a while. I will see the answer and bring back to you, because I honestly.
It's okay with me. It's
I
just,
like those are,
those actually make me slow down. They put the fear of God into me.
because red and blue is just speed.
It's the red and blue lights on Midland. I guess my question is related to this issue. If they're similar and they look very similar, my perception, and I drive Midland probably as much as anybody else. Those speed humps, the new speed humps, thanks Matt Langhorst, seem to take the speeding completely, and your extra stop sign, thanks Terry, have taken the speeding really kind of out of that portion of Midland as far as my observation goes. Can we repurpose those signs to Midland and do this and save 2 of the 4 signs? Because I think there's 2 signs there.
So take
And I'm not sure they can.
Before,
They're also 15 years old, probably.
well, I mean, if it's simple as like replacing some hardware, or updating software. I mean, I'm just trying to save us a little bit of money for something that we already have in stock is where I'm going with it.
I think, I believe that's, as to whether those signs specifically include some other location, I'm not sure.
I'm only asking if there's a motion potentially that we explore, potentially saving half of this money by repurposing signs that maybe aren't needed in that area and putting them to maybe even another area of town.
Those are hardwired, they.
I believe they are. I believe the.
Okay.
installation-
Okay.
But we could look at seeing why they don't work.
Yes, we should definitely. look at
And get
some-
them fixed.
I don't know why they have them.
Not that they don't work to make people so glad they don't flash.
And that shouldn't need to come back to us.
No.
It's just.
No. And my point in all this was just simply, if staff is able to reallocate existing resources and assets to something else, why not? So anyway, that's my own question. Do
Okay.
you have a
Yeah,
question?
I think, I'm wondering if Shelley wants to make a motion.
Sure.
Yes, I would like to make a motion to uphold the recommendation of the Transportation Commission to purchase 4 of the EVOS signs to be placed in appropriate locations according to staff and CDOT in the not to exceed $15,000.
Second that.
Been moved by Shelley, seconded by
Ingrid.
Okay, sorry.
She beat me. As usual.
Any other comments?
Oh, I have a comment, and that is that not to say that I want to amend the motion, but I would love it if staff could further explore, a regular cycle of moving the signs as we have them so that we can kind of incorporate Officer Kimenaw's, observation that they do get kind of diluted in their locations and see if we can change them around and really get a good impact for our investment.
After Charlie tonight.
Yep.
I was just gonna comment, Jonathan, I agree on if we can move them, then it'd be great. My question is, we probably spend more money moving them because they're hardwired. than
Sure.
we'd say.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
again, if it doesn't save money or time or energy, I'm not interested.
But I just would want to reemphasize what Lieutenant Kimino said, that, like, I know, when you're leaving Grand Junction on near Horizon Drive now, they're flashing 70. People just don't pay attention after a while. When it was first up there, sure, like, oh my God, 70 miles an hour. But so if you move it around a little bit and people commuting from Aspen to Rifle, whatever, at the end of the day, early in the morning, are they paying attention? Yeah, if it's something, hey, that's new. Are there police around? It's flashing red, that kind of. And it says like, who? Diana said, if it says thank you or something, hey, that's something unique. What does that say? I think that will work. So I like that idea. Okay. Thank
Call
you.
the question.
Forgot Diana's name.
Motion passes with a vote of 5-1 with Counselors Willman, Wuso, Step, Kaup, and Hershey voting yes. Mayor Godus voting no.
Is there something funny?
Lieutenant knows who to follow home tonight. It's gonna be space.
I thought maybe.
I mean, 15,000 for something that no one's gonna pay attention to in a month is.
Well,
That's true. We could hit to.
Oh, yeah, 18. All right.
Okay. 18.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022. Sorry, I'm getting ahead. of
I'm
myself.
against babies. Why? Do we have to talk about it? You're against babies and family medical leave? Want to go home?
Charles.
Yeah, I'll take a little bit of this one. So this is a new program through the state legislature, and really, I think honestly, it's targeted primarily at businesses, unlike city municipality that has the ability to provide good benefits to their employees as far as leave goes. So our recommendation, and I will tell you the recommendation, I think across the board with every municipality I work with or our firm works with, is to opt out of this program at this point. That does not mean that an employee can't opt into the program if they so choose. But given the fact that the city of Glenwood Springs has, you know, a short-term disability, a variety of disability programs available and in place for employees, along with a good sick leave program, we don't feel at this point that this is a good value for either the employees or the city. So with that, we're recommending to opt out of the FMLI program. There's been some confusion as to whether you needed to do it by the 1st of July or the end of the year. That's still sort of in conflict out there. So most jurisdictions are just saying, you know what, we're just going to take care of this now and be done. So with that, I'll answer any questions that I can. But like I said, this really for us, I think at the staff level is the benefits package is very good here at the city on these kinds of issues. For an organization, say like mine, where I only have, you know, 18 employees, this is something we're taking a hard look at as an option. But for the city, probably not a good choice.
Questions? Motion.
I will make a motion to support the staff recommendation and opt out of the family medical resolution 2022-26 Colorado Family and Medical Leave Insurance Program.
Been moved by Ingrid, seconded by Charlie.
I have comments.
Comment?
I think we're a leader in this community. And even listening to Carl and how this is more impactful with small businesses, I do feel like families have a difficult time and having an opportunity for family leave, whether it's because you're sick or you have a child that's sick or you have a new child or your parents are sick, having those opportunities available for you is very important, especially after I've watched what we've gone through with a couple of years of COVID. I just feel like, as I said earlier, that we're a community leader and we show leadership by supporting the Family Leave Act. So I cannot support this motion.
Deborah, what is our current short-term disability for employers and our sick leave, and you know, what do we currently offer?
Well, we do have 6 weeks of paid maternity and maternity leave. Short-term disability.
Do we have paternity?
Yes.
Okay, checking.
Do you remember?
So short-term disability is an opt-in program. Employees can choose to purchase that.
Sweet. Thank you. Appreciate that.
I was trying really hard not to make
Okay, it's okay. So yes, we do offer a voluntary short-term disability program that they can opt in and pay. We pay for long-term, so after 13 weeks, that would kick in if there was something. Everybody is entitled to the FMLA, regardless of whether we opt into this Family Act or not. Everybody gets 12 weeks. It can be supplemented. We offer 96 hours a year for full-time employees for sick time. Plus, on top of that, 96 or more, depending on the years of service you've been here, for vacation time on top of the 96 hours. So we do have a very generous leave program. And so that
I had the harebrained idea of doing paternity, maternity leave years ago. I think what we're trying to say is the coverage we offer is so much better than this. And that is why we don't recommend it.
I'm not sure I understand.
That's correct. I can hear your voice.
I think we need recording of that. Posterity.
Can you make that and give it to me?
That's perfect.
Now we know how your staff meetings go. I do have a question, Yvette, and Deborah, you may have addressed this, but it maybe addressed what Paul is suggesting. With the Family Leave Act, I think the state passed it. If my spouse has a child, I also get medical leave or paternity leave. Is that correct? It isn't just the woman, the husband can get it or
So
the
what we pay
female
for,
spouse.
what we pay for is 6 weeks, regardless if you're the woman or the dad or the mom. We pay for 6 weeks. You're entitled to 12 weeks.
Okay.
And so then that extra 6 weeks is supplemented with vacation or sick time.
So we are in, I think it's your question, Paul, because I agree with the principle you're saying, but if our program is better than what the state is offering, And if it's at a lower cost, which it is, we should be doing that.
So are we saying that if we pass, if we took this on, then we're getting rid of the programs the city has?
It's
I think-
better than.
Yeah, I think one of the real questions is that it's, you likely we would be paying twice, but they would get the same amount. of
They
leave.
wouldn't get any extra
Like, they wouldn't get
benefit.
any
It would
extra
just cost
benefit as a result of this.
That's my
So,
question.
right, it's not, I mean, yeah, it's not in the aggregate, it would be, parallel to each other. And so we haven't been able to figure out where it provides a particular benefit to an employee underneath the program the city has.
Okay.
Nor do I think many, I mean, I think cities across the state are doing the same thing.
They are, and there again, I mean, this is targeted at businesses that struggle to provide a level of benefit, this level of benefit, for a variety of reasons. Municipalities, that's one of, it's one of the places where we do reasonably well, especially in these areas on recruitment, is that we can provide a solid level of benefit that you don't get in the private sector or the small business sector. If you're in Garfield County, for instance, where prices are high for everything.
The way-
One, sorry,
Oh, I was
one
just
more
gonna-
clarification.
The way I understood it is that this is almost the equivalent of having really great insurance and just getting a supplemental insurance just as an additional cost. And you're never even going to need the supplemental because your primary insurance covers everything.
I understand what you're
Exactly, yeah.
saying. I got that. Carl, did you say that an employee could opt in if they wanted to? And do
can
they do
opt
that
in
annually?
At their own cost, and I can't remember exactly what the amount is they can opt in for.
I think if they're gonna do it, that's the full 0.9% that they would have
Yeah.
to opt in. And
They would
they
have
would
to
pay
full-
it directly. It wouldn't actually run through us then, but they can opt in. And we can opt back in at any beginning of any year.
Right.
It's just if we don't opt in now, then we have to wait 3 years to get out. So kind of just waiting to see how it works. It's
Okay.
Probably a good move.
Thank you.
All right, I forget, was there a motion in a second? Okay, Hannah, let's call the question.
Fingers crossed.
Hey, there we go, Carl.
Motion
That sweet
passes
sound and night.
unanimously.
Is that the first time you said that?
Yes.
I moved to adjourn before.
You guys are really putting me through my paces.
Well, not everybody can be Ryan. Yeah, council comments. Go ahead, Charlie.
Just two things. One, I want to remind you all that Strawberry Days is going to be this weekend. Kiwanis is a phenomenal organization, and I'm making that as a private citizen. I want to thank the city staff for donating some prizes to the Kiwanis ball race, and I do appreciate that. The other comment I want to make, oh, by the way, the band on Saturday night at 8:00, I think it's the 4th of July band. I watched some video of them. They're very good for all age categories. So I would encourage you to do that. The other issue and the more significant one is I think there were 4 of us attending, and Jen Hooten are going to be attending. I don't know if the other staff attending to the same. You're going to go, Deborah? Okay, I wasn't sure. So we have 2 staff and 4 council. On Thursday at 2:00, they will vote for the CML Board of Director candidates. We need to appoint someone who is our voting representative. That means you would go in, you would pick up the ballot, so you confer with everybody that wants to be there. I can't be there because I'm a candidate, so I can't.
I see.
So I can't be, I don't think I can be voting representative. So it has to be one of the, either a staff person or one of the other council members. You need to be there. I could certainly work with you and tell you, well, I think you ought to vote for it based on the people that are on the board now.
Oh, okay.
And or the candidates. Yeah. So, but
When do we have to make that, do we have to make that determination now? or-
yeah, because it's next Thursday or the
Oh,
vote is
okay,
next
just make it
Tuesday,
fly.
next Thursday too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think Shelley should do it.
She's not going.
Shelley's like, I'm reading the book and I'm not gonna look up. Shelley's going, what?
I'm not.
I think Paula should do it.
Conference this year. So I just-
How about
2 o'clock on Thursday.
Do that. I'll need your hand.
Huh?
I'll need you to hold my hand.
I'd love to hold yours. For the vote.
Well, you said he was gonna hold.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, I just realized that was inappropriate. I apologize. All right.
Do we need an official vote?
Now, is everybody's okay with that? I think.
Okay.
All right, that's all.
Tony was raising his hand.
Yes, from the gentleman in the back or the side.
Last, was it Tuesday night, Gary? We had a fire board meeting? I forget. Yeah. Tuesday night. Tuesday afternoon. So Tuesday, I came back from Mesa County and I was seeing all these alerts on my phone. There was a fire and I-70 was closed and Highway 6 was closed. And my friend who lives up Oasis Creek, Mr. Greer, who you know, was calling me all panicked. But I just want to thank Gary and the fire department and the other resources they were able to marshal that went and put out this fire between I-70 and Highway 6, right? So thank you guys so much. And the police department, of course, who were able to reroute traffic on Devereaux and from Devereaux and onto Midland and stuff. They did a great job too. So thank you. Great, fast response. Thank you. That's all.
I actually have two things. One of them just came up this evening. There was a comment earlier about river trail repair happening this summer, and I'm just wondering, is that possible to move that time? I'm an avid user of the river trail, so I just didn't know if that's a possibility instead of this peak time.
If it is awarded and it is it's something that needs to occur, it is a not safe thing. So.
But we can't stall it for 6 weeks instead of July.
I am not
August.
familiar with the contract term, so I do not know, but I know we have awarded the contract and that usually has a start date.
Okay, well, if we could check on that, that'd be great. Just,
I'd be happy to.
thank you. And
Real
then-
quick, can I piggyback on that?
Sure.
Can we just make sure that whatever we do on 12th Street, because it is really, really bad, if there's a way we get the pothole filler out there or alleviate some of those as much as we can. I don't want to do a whole mill and overland 7th Street, but if there's ways we can at least get streets out there to street sweep the larger debris, pothole it, and I don't know. I mean, just make it a little bit more passable for the 6 weeks that it's down, because that is a pretty heavy traffic trail.
12th Street from Pitkin to.
Yeah.
Down to the trail.
Yeah.
Okay.
On 12.
I believe
Yeah.
the streets crew is planning to repave that area.
Oh, full
That was a
repave,
part of
okay.
our MOC negotiations with RACTA and the connections to the trail, and they did agree to allow us to repave that area, so.
Before
I
the,
think that the street crew intends to fulfill that.
great,
Before, yeah.
great. Because I can get up there on my bike, but you have to do a lot of this kind of stuff.
Rough, I know.
And then my other one was, we had gotten a letter from somebody regarding a sidewalk on the north side of 8th Street between the mortuary and City Hall. And I've actually had a conversation with Jill Sutherland with the DDA about really we ask people to park down in that area because we don't have that much parking, and making sure that they feel good about walking from, the old, the mortuary to up into the downtown area. So it's something that we could look at in our budget or start considering on how we can make that easily approachable area for our tourists and our citizens to
Sidewalk there.
walk along.
8th Street, we are working on a temporary, as we're doing the parking lot, we're also working on improving the goat trail and making it a little safer. The long-term complete street project is something we tried to get funded last year federally. It's a $3 or $4 or $5 million project, and it is no longer high on city council's priority list. So when you look at your priorities again,
I think I'm thinking not 8th Street so much as 7th Street, that from the mortuary to the city.
Because Paul, you mean like one side of the sidewalk you can't walk on? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're walking from that
Go ahead and
parking
do the
lot.
Same thing.
Over here
Yeah, okay.
on this side.
Anyways, I'm just thinking kind of the big, we need parking. We're trying to tell people to go park down there. Now we need to make it so they can walk from there to downtown.
I believe
I'll
the-
put
the
it back on my
improvement
priority
should
list.
Be shortly, and the bigger improvement, I would
Okay,
encourage council to consider a high priority.
thank you.
Ingrid?
I want to follow up on Counselor Willman's acknowledgement that this is Strawberry Days weekend. And while we're all enjoying the time, I just want to do a shout out to the chamber, and in particular Tara Harmon. I think that she has 2 years of not having it, and then this year being in a new venue for the park, as well as a new parade route. They have been busy, and they have committed a lot of time and energy and resources to allow our community to have this very old celebration. And I just really appreciate all of them.
I would note that they were out there today. I was out studying for Kiwanis today. And they were working very hard, but they were having a lot of fun.
I'm
riding
good.
those
Good. I'm
carts
glad to
around.
hear it. Yeah, that's awesome.
And I'd like to tag on to that is we can all volunteer. I noticed Charlie was and Ingrid was when I was signing up today. So find a stint with the Chamber of Commerce and see when you can put in a couple hours.
Yep. And then one other thing, CML, and that is that Charlie has been on the CML board here is it the last year? 2 years. Just a huge thank you to represent us.
Yeah.
That means that our community needs and is not only are you advocating for us, but you're keeping us abreast of new things that are happening. And we truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
And it's true that you're running for reelection, correct? Okay, so that's
why-
good
that's why
because I
You
didn't
guys-
check my mail, but I did get
You
you.
guys endorsed that.
Yeah.
that election a few months ago.
Totally good. I got you stickers for the top of your chocolate. And they say, so I'm going to help you. I'm going to give you a bag of chocolate to take with you. And they say Willman for CML and vote Charlie Willman. And so we are going to have you go in style and have some swag.
All right.
Okay,
Love it.
cool.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Real quick, I'm also really excited about Tourist Park for Strawberry Days. I think it's gonna be awesome down there. It's such a better venue. And then Terry Parch, I was gonna talk to you about this earlier, but like there's a guardrail that's gone up on Midland now. And I remember seeing that in the original drawings, and then I was kind of excited because it hadn't gone in. I was like, wow, I'm glad we're not putting that in because it looks so much nicer to not have a big car guardrail. Is that going to be the entire length of that corridor?
It won't be the entire length. There's a hazard that they're considering, with the hillside down below. And I think the guardrail is intended to protect both pedestrians and the hillside hazard. So I don't think it's along the entire route. I want to double check because it's been a while since I looked at it, but I really think that it's just from essentially Hager Lane to Cardiff Bridge.
That's kind of the entire route. I mean,
Let me double check.
Okay.
I'll check the link for you, but yeah, that rail that went on the outside is really a pedestrian rail and
Yeah.
not intended to keep vehicles from going off the hillside. And so the guardrail was the solution for the vehicles.
and do we have similar concerns to that on Midland between 7th and 27th?
We would have, if we rebuilt that road, we would probably want to examine all of the drop off points,
Okay.
add guardrail and that kind of thing.
Okay,
And cars did drive off of there sometimes.
didn't have a curb though. All right.
Some people don't drive the same Prius you do.
Listen, those 14-inch tires can barely get over the cracks on the rebuilt Midland. They're like,
Waiting for some kind.
they're little golf cart wheels. All right, all right. That's all I have. City manager report?
Yeah, January 24th is our Canyon celebration with the state. I would encourage.
June?
June 24th is our Canyon celebration with the state. If you guys have not RSVP'd, I would encourage you to. It should be a good event. And then tentatively, I would schedule in July 8th in the morning for the ribbon cutting for South Midland.
July 8th.
And then when the employee picnics come up too, sorry.
June 30th.
Ah,
The employee picnic is June 30th.
Okay.
In the morning.
All right, I have 2 or 3 things. I think we're gonna have a fairly busy agenda on July 7th, but I am probably gonna need an executive session. 45 minutes of your time. A couple of things have come up. We need to have some further discussions regarding the IGA and detox. And I also think we're gonna have, I'm gonna need to talk to you a little bit further about Mitchell Cooper at that point. So I just want to kind of flag that out for you. We'll work with mayor and the mayor pro tem on timing on that, whether we start the meeting early and have it ahead of 6:15 or do it at the end of the evening. I'm just giving you a fair warning that we're going to need to be focused on a couple of issues. I did want to also tell you that we made significant progress with CenturyLink on that emergency access. It's amazing what that resolution prompts. Sometimes you just have to do that, so I appreciate that. Update on the city manager search. Thank you guys for your comments. And we should be, that posting should have went up on Tuesday or Wednesday. I can't remember which day. Yeah, ICMA yesterday. I believe the return date on that is July 15th, so we'll start, that process is rolling. So that's good. The last thing I'm gonna ask for you guys to do is that we do need somebody, unfortunately, to run the city at 5 PM on July 8th. And I'm hoping that we can go ahead and get that taken care of tonight to provide some certainty both for the community and for staff.
Yeah.
Can I make a motion that we request that Steve Boyd be the acting city manager until we have selected a new city manager?
Yeah, I believe the motion was to appoint Steve Boyd, acting city manager.
Been moved by Shelley, seconded by Tony. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Anything else?
Thank you. He is in Mexico right now and that was,
Go take a break.
yes. Thank you, council. That's all I had. All right. I'll second that. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're out of here.
Good night, Alyssa.